yesterday it was a seemingly very smooth transition into. By the way, Mog, you're echoing a little bit.
All right, I'll turn the mic off when I'm not talking.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, it was quite smooth transition, as far as I could tell, to the Bittensor revolution. We've already gotten a new subnet, and we can maybe just go over these initial changes. If you, Mog Machine, would like to share how stats, the statistics from there. Toot toot.
Yeah, I was going to say I might have to mute Terence if he carries on with that kind of behavior. Yeah, it was incredibly smooth. I mean, it all seemed to be too good to be true. There was a couple of updates pushed to the validators just so everyone could set weights. But yes, what happened was obviously the Revolution branch was pushed onto the main master Bittensor branch, which was a fairly simple upgrade for everyone. It was just like upgrading Bittensor in a normal fashion. But then the subnet or the text prompting subnet was moved onto a completely new branch for miners and validators. Whereas previously it was the open validators repository. It now became the text prompting subnet, which follows the template of all of the other subnets. So there was quite a few under the hood changes. How it works for a user, an end user using sort of Bit API or any of the API and prompting the network is the same. But under the hood, there are some fundamental differences. And of course, it falls in line with all of the other subnets in that the setting of emissions across all subnets is now decentralized and decided by the validators on subnet 0. And subnet 0 was the main new addition, star of the show last night. Subnet 0 is a subnet that we don't need to run a validator on. Validators can register for it, and then the top 64 by stake are allowed to decide what emissions they wish to elect for the different or for the available subnets.
Did they change it from 128 to 64? Because some time ago they said 128.
64. They said 64 now because there were only 57 or 59 validators, of which I think only 50 were. And it just, I think they see a potential slight drop in the number of validators as the commitment and cost to run on multiple subnets starts to creep in. So at this stage, 64 more than covers the validators that we have. And so everyone can set their weight. It's called setting weights. People will say setting weights on subnet 0. This is different to how your validator automatically sets weights on other subnets when it's validating. Setting weights on subnet 0 is a manual process. There's a table on the front of Taustats that probably does the better job of explaining it. But essentially, if we have, well, we can look at the current situation. We have subnet 1, the old subnet 1, subnet 11, a new subnet called subnet 2 that we're not sure what it's doing yet, it's not doing anything specific. Subnet 3, the old subnet.
Actually, we know about we got a little bit of news.
Yeah, I know we do. Sorry, it doesn't help my point because no one's set any weights for it yet because no one's running any miners and validators on it. Was more what I meant. And so in the old setup before yesterday evening, 95% of emissions went to subnet 1 and 5% of emissions went to subnet 11. Nothing was going to subnet 3, and that was it. That was how it was set. If you wanted to mimic that same setup, you would have gone and assigned 0.95 or 95% of the weights of emissions to subnet 1 and 0.05 or 5% to subnet 11. However, most didn't do that. The foundation were the first to use... Go on.
Mark, I think it could be like... You've done such an amazing job with Taustat. So should me or you share our screen and we can show the exact numbers there?
I can share my screen. Let's make sure I've got nothing inappropriate on it. No, we're good. Hold on a second.
So Mog and Taustat have were completely ready for this update, and they did an amazing job adapting their tau stats to show all of the different subnets weights. So you can see real time the weights on subnet 0. So, yeah, you wanna go on?
Can you see that?
Yeah, but wait, now subnet 11 says 0%. Oh, I guess that's just
Let me refresh that. I'm not sure if I've refreshed it since.
because I saw on the next, it's just indexing error to the right there. You can see.
Yes, of course. Thank you for that. Obviously, Mog Machine hasn't done that good a job. I'm not going to fix that live on the call. I'll do that as soon as I'm not sharing.
It was working earlier today. I can attest.
That's very. I went in and I know why, because I copied and pasted and changed to make it orange on Const suggestions. Yeah, I'll change that as soon as I'm not presenting my screen. But you're right. This 9.53 should be showing for subnet 11. So as you can see here, the foundation went in, and as the first ones to set weights, I'm quite glad they did, because it brought it to the conversation point. They went and set 0.2 or 20% for subnet 0, which brought up in the conversation, what does that mean to set weights or emissions on subnet 0? It doesn't mean that anyone is receiving those tau. It means that those tau are recycled in the same way that when you do a registration, you recycle the tau. It means they're put back into the non-circulating supply, into the what's it called, the non-circulating supply? What's the word I'm looking for? Into the total supply, but taken out of the circulating supply. So they are not emitted. So if you look at it, that every 24 hours, 7,200 tau are emitted into the network. But if you take 20% of that, that would be 1,440. At the moment, or the foundation proposed that 1,440 were simply recycled, not emitted, and that 70% went to subnet 1 and 10% to subnet 11. However, as you can see from the figures at the top, this is not what happens, because it's a consensus. So if I switch this to the top 50, what happens is an average of, well, an easy way to look at it is an average of the votes set by everybody. However, it uses Yuma Consensus 1, which takes, so I'm just going to mute that person somewhere down there.
Wait, can you turn off your Bluetooth?
There he is.
Just so it disconnects.
So he's muted. There you go. So what happens is it takes an average of everybody's weights, but then takes into account your stake. So those with stake do have a more important voice, if that's said. There is actually a mathematical definition of this on the Bittensor documents. If you look on the, I'll link to it later in the chat. So what's happened is, after everyone has set their weights or set their cast their vote, subnet 0 has ended up with 8.73%. Subnet 1 has ended up with 81.73%, and subnet 11 has ended up with 9.53%, so just under 10%. I'm quite pleased, because when I look through, as far as I'm concerned, only me and this person on 228 called it. So it's as close as you can be to what I hoped or thought it should be. For me, the justification was that it's going to be a bit of a mess, potentially, for 24, 48 hours. We've got new subnets coming, and I don't think subnet 1 is deserving of 95% of emissions, if that makes sense, in terms of the value that it's adding to the ecosystem. So I would rather save a little bit back and assign that value. I felt subnet 11 was due a little bit more than 5%, and that subnet 1 was, however, still due 80%. That was my personal opinion. Any questions on that?
Please add questions in chat, but also I'm going to comment a little bit. So because subnet 0 gets 8.73 percent of emission now, and that's recycled. The API is decreased, so the emission earned from validators per day is lower now, which some people have seen. But it's the more that is recycled, the better for the value of tau, because that means that future tau will be emitted and can be used by validators, because it will be used to pay miners to run the networks and validators for validating. So
on top of that, the APY is going down anyway because of those 7,200 tau that are emitted per day, 3,600 for miners, 3,600 for validators, 9% of that 3,600 for validators and 9% of the 3,600 for miners is now given to subnet creators. So I have not gone through the APRs on the front page of Tau Stats with a fine-tooth comb. That's one of the things I'm going to be doing next week or towards the end of this week to make sure that APRs are now really up to date for all scenarios. And I think it's still taking into account that validators get 3,600 tau, whereas they now don't. That's quite an important thing to bear in mind.
Yeah, and this, of course, has good things and bad things. Like very short term, it does bring down APY that 18% of emission goes to subnet creators. But on the other hand, subnet 1 and 11, that's the foundation. And if they get more funds, they can probably do good things with that. So will other subnet creators. So all in all, probably a long-term positive.
Well, I think what people have to remember is we got to a point where the foundation were maintaining and dealing with issues with subnet 1, subnet 11, and it was stifling innovation a little bit. And what these subnets and user subnets have done have incentivized people to come in and create their own subnets to build newer, say better, different rewards mechanisms, different ways of doing things, and different ways of utilizing the UMA consensus, the incentivized distributed compute, for different things, which suddenly takes a weight off the foundation. And one of the nicest things to hear Kont say yesterday was that he was very excited because he's going to be focusing on, and I think what was he going to do? Was a training or subnet, but he gets to now spend time and the foundation focusing on things that they want to, rather than maintaining all of the subnets and being sort of responsible for everything, which is definitely going to push innovation forward.
Yeah, it really is amazing. And for those wondering, subnet 3, it's the same old subnet 3, but of course no one is maintaining it, so it will be replaced sooner or later. It says it's active here, but it's really not. And subnet 2, it's still a bit of a mystery, but it got registered right away after the update by Lucretius. How do you pronounce that? Let me just find the
Necrus, something Necrus capital. It was a very clever move because, of course, the subnets to explain the cost. Necrosis, yeah.
Capital.
Obviously, they secured a subnet by locking up 1,000 tau. Instantly, the moment they did that, it became 2,000 tau to lock up a subnet, and that diminishes by a small amount that, again, you can see on the front of Tau Stats per block. But it will probably take a little while to get back down again to 2 weeks, to 1,000 tau.
Yeah, and it's only locked. So if they get registered, you get tau back, but you can't earn any APY on it. So it's still like some sort of cost. And yeah, the first subnet, they're going to work on machine translation. So subnet 2, they're working on machine translation.
What is machine translation? If you want to, do you want to explain a little bit more about that? Do you know a little bit more about that?
So it's just normal translation.
Okay, so language translation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Caro and Jay are writing in chat, so maybe I got something wrong.
Oh, they are correct.
Oh.
Another subnet has been bought.
Wow.
SN4 is registered. I'm going to have to check the code and update that. Can I stop streaming? Does anyone mind?
No, go ahead. You can take a minute. So, subnet, anyone that has any information about who it is? This is super exciting. And the registration costs now 3,800 Tau. That is a pretty penny for anyone wanting to register a new subnet. Wow. Yeah, and if anyone can confirm machine translation, I think it's just normal translation. I will Google it now, so don't say anything. Yeah, it's translation of text or speech. It would be kind of cool if they did add a speech translation, but I think they will probably start with only text. Oh, Carol, yeah, is that the image sub? No, that's creative build. Sorry. What's Carol? If you wanna jump on the call right now, feel free. If you wanna keep it a bit secret or no talk, that's fine too. Yeah, putting AirPods in. Wow. Oh my God, this is exciting. Exciting indeed.
Howdy, everyone. How are we doing today?
We're good. Wow, so you're the second new subnet ever in history to get registered.
Yes, I was trying to get the first one yesterday, but someone beat me. Yeah, so SN3. No, so the net UID is number 4. And what this subnet will do is over the past year when I was working at the foundation, it was an incredible experience. Working for Jake and Ola was like, I mean, it was unbelievable. The things that I've learned, that the amount that I've grown as a person, it's been amazing. And so over the past year, I've been working on I've been a little bit of a student of Meta AI's head researcher, Yanli Kuhn, really following his research. And he's been popularizing this new type of architecture called a joint embedding predictive architecture, or JEPA. And what's really interesting about this is that it's essentially an encoder with a prediction head that produces representations of whatever you want. One of the tricks of JEPA is biasing the representations to something that you really want, and so, or like that's useful. And so, what we're going to be doing on SN4 is incorporating that technology into an agent framework that enables an end-to-end model, which means that to explain, I'll explain what end-to-end means in a moment, but an end-to-end multimodality model. So to break down exactly what that means, end-to-end describes a model that whenever you perform a forward pass, you put all of your inputs in, and it goes and does a forward pass through the model, and you get all your outputs. So, for example, for a long time, Tesla's autopilot system was not an end-to-end system. There were a lot of different not language models, but different AI models, whether that was image segmentation, the RL driving policy. There were all these different models that were used in orchestra to drive the car. And what Tesla has been working on, and what a lot of people have been working on lately, is end-to-end, where you can just put your inputs in, like you can just put the video stream into the car, and the output will be how to steer the car, the acceleration, right? And so to have an end-to-end multimodality model, is quite difficult, because with our current technology, with decoder only autoregressive language models, these have to be done in like tokens and as a discrete task in a vocab. And so this really constrains the ability to have multimodality because of the context windows. And so what I've been working on for a part of my research that I conducted at the foundation, along with JEPA and into encoder predictive architectures, and these types of end-to-end models, I had we now have the ability to do image generation and image understanding, video generation and video understanding, audio generation and audio understanding, along with text. And so to have this ability to, we're all like, you could input a picture, a video, you could speak to it, and that is just the input to the forward pass. And then you get your output where it's a video or an image or text or all of the above. This is what SN4 will be doing. And so that's really what the model does. I can go through the validation process if we like, or, yeah.
First of all, let me say, that sounds really amazing. Like, so far there are lots of been attempts in form of ensemble models, but if you look at the human brain, we basically process everything, and sure, we have eyes and different organs for like different senses. We process this into this one mishmash brain, and what you're describing is basically, as I understand it, a way to incentivize creating a sort of universal intelligence from image to text to video.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So this is, and to kind of build on your point there, the inputs, like from your vision, right? This is like photons hitting the back of your retina and being converted into an analog signal for your brain, right? All of your senses are converted like to an analog signal, and even based off of those different inputs. And so what the encoder does in the JEPA architecture serves the same purpose. And the research team at Facebook, if you would like to learn more about this, published a paper called ImageBind that does this exact thing. So you can input a video, an image, text, or any type of, you can put inertial measurement unit data, like all of these different type formats of data, into this single encoder, and it will output an embedding or an encoded representation of what you input. So utilizing technology like this is really kind of like the conversion in our brains from a photon to an analog signal.
That is really incredible. Bard, he shared the link if people want to look. But basically, I can share it quickly. So, does it work with like a limited number of modalities, or could you expand it to basically like infinite?
Infinite, yeah, exactly.
Really?
Okay. You can, and that's actually what our plan is, right? And we're going to start with a few modalities at first, the main ones that people are probably going to use the most, but I want to expand this to the encoder to even having things like where I can just stream satellite data, like weather data from a satellite or from a weather API, for example, and it's just straight into the model. And what's so cool is that this sort of encoder, we could get out, the model can learn these incredible representations in such a way that humans can't. So it can understand the nuance between inertial measurement unit data, which is like how your phone knows its position. Like when you like flip your phone, it knows that you're turning it, you know? It knows the direction like a compass, right? It can understand the fine nuances between that type of data and like a picture of a robot or a picture of an orientation. Like it's almost as if the robot could feel the orientation, like how it would feel to be flipped based off that inertial measurement data.
So it's kind of like if you added a new sense to humans, like we just get like hearing and sight, but with this you could actually add like a gyroscope or depth sense or heat map
precisely data and the nuance between those different modalities. And so this is ultimately, you know, I feel like I'm on a mission right now to create a computer that can see the future. I think that is, you know, to be able to have superior planning to where it's the great equalizer, where it's all about who you are as a person and how you are as an operator and not necessarily your technical ability. Where if you don't know how to program or if you don't know how to construct, how to design a building or any of these very specific knowledge tasks, right? But you have the ambition, you have the drive, you have the will to see it to the end. This technology is that, you know, will enable those people to build incredible things. And so, you know, it's really, really excited to get this onto Bittensor. You know, the reason why building on Bittensor is so great is because we are one of the only crypto protocols I think out there right now that can really scale into the hundreds of millions of users in terms of just the sheer throughput that can go through the system. I mean, it's quite amazing what these validators and these miners can do. And so, you know, I think there's some individuals like Wizzles and Mog and Jay who understand the validation process a little better. And so I wanted to kind of break that down a little bit. So
absolutely.
So one of the really cool things that we did at the foundation, I'm super proud of the team there, by the way, and the work that we did on that. We had to engineer and innovate a new solution to scoring models that you don't know anything about the model. It's a very hard task, right? If you don't know anything about the model and you're trying to grade these responses that are all the kind of like in such a way where it's like, you know, teachers, there's a huge industry, education, where there is not a deterministic or like consistent scoring method for essays. And if you think about Subnet 1, it's very similar to this, right? Like essentially we have to create an AI that is a better grader than any teacher ever and is also very consistent. And what we came up with was the reward stack and the cost stack. And so these two mechanisms, I think, particularly after what we've done with Subnet 1, you know, there has been a great explosion in the complexity and in terms of driving what the reward and the cost models are looking for. And so it's all really about tuning the incentives so that the second and third order effects of those incentives are a net beneficial or it's a productive and beneficial to the greater network as a whole. And you know, it was a great time. I think that we've done a really great job with in respect to the towards engineering that sort of situation and sort of outcome, right? But we were constrained by reward models. These reward models were very big. If you load them in as if FP8, or if you try to quantize it, you start losing quality. And so it's a very hard problem to solve. And that's why we made the most performant 3 billion model that you can get right now, that also has a base sequence length of 8092, and with BTLM. And so in the new subnet 4 validation mechanism, it will be based off of the same concepts that we applied on subnet 1. So the reward stack and the cost stack will be very similar to that of subnet 1, the structure. However, because now we have this pre-trained model that we can base all of these different reward models on, the cost of running a validator on the subnet is going to go down greatly. And so I've trained right now a few different reward models, all based off BTLM. I've even considered doing something like Medusa, where these are just different heads and it's all just a single reward model, but there's different heads that are trained to do different things. So one's trained to do human feedback, another's trained to do process supervision and go step by step. Another one determines how accurate. And these are going to be the reward models. So I'm still iterating and developing and testing those reward models right now. And as we launch our new subnet, we're going to iterate through and have some metrics that we track that really drive the second and third order effects we're looking for. And on the cost model side, we're really going to be optimizing for verifying certain architectures. So because this is a multi-modality subnet, you need to, the AI model that you run needs to be able to output all of these different modalities. And so we will have a variety of templates that, evaluate how well the image generation is, or the image understanding, the video generation, the video understanding. And these will all be done in a deterministic and normalized way. So if you score really well on image classification, but you don't score very well on image generation, right? The how you can benchmark the model that you train very easily on SN4 as a result of this, because you'll be able to see very clearly where your model's lacking and where you need to increase the performance on your model. By the way, Mog, I definitely will be writing a Medium. We're going to be having a lot of stuff coming out over these next couple weeks. So, I feel like I was honestly a little preemptive in telling everyone I got the subnet, but they're like, "Oh, someone got to do something." I was like, "Oh, you might as well tell them now."
It's good. Now we finally get the announcement that the announcement of the announcement was about, and I think the enthusiasm and the drive in your voice is what's making most people kind of understand that this is big, but a lot of us are also kind of thinking, my God, I'm gonna have to play this back a couple of times over to understand exactly what this means at a sort of beyond it's awesome.
No,
well done.
Yeah, it's we're really excited about it. We're going to be launching I don't know if anyone remembers Opentensor. I love that was a project that we built at the foundation that was very successful in terms of its usage, and so we're going to be at this new company. I don't want to announce the name just yet, just because we're still locking up some domains and stuff. So I don't want to say the name just yet, but we'll be announcing it here very shortly. But we're going to be having a new platform where, we want to be able to grow this sort of thing to, where it's competing and contending and punching above its weight in terms of competing against GPT-4. Like our objective here is to get like 1 million users by the end of the year. It's a very ambitious goal and one that I really do think that we can hit. And all of this will be taking place on a single subnet on Bittensor. I mean, we have I believe 12 subnets, a space for 12 subnets right now, but there's no reason why we can't be adding more subnets, right? And so we're going to be able to scale this into the millions of UIDs. We're going to be able to drive just so much throughput in the system in a way that no other crypto protocol can. It's so exciting, and I really appreciate y'all letting me come on today and tell you all about it. So yeah, there will be more updates coming soon.
I have a question, actually. Sorry, just a abstract question. Have you considered the outcome when we scale to, I know you've just said millions of UIDs, but to a larger number of UIDs and how that affects the dilution of rewards? Because of course, we have to assume that the value of Bittensor will increase proportionally with all of this new traffic and usage. But mining still has to remain competitive in order for people to run the infrastructure on the subnets. Is that something that when you're planning this is factored into your future proofing, that it must remain incentivized for those that power the subnet for you?
So this is something I've thought about for sure, and what I think we're about to see. This is speculation, right? But what I think we're about to see is a new era of like a huge meta change to mining on Bittensor in general. So it will become less about like your domination of the network, not yours, but like having like, I feel like right now the main strategy is just like maximize UIDs. And in this new kind of very speculative, when we have all of these different subnets, it'll be kind of like more like a stock market almost, where there is like this sort of speculation on the validator side, where or like a prediction, like where it's like, okay, the value for me here, like for 30 minutes, there's going to be a bunch of value on this specific, like let's say subnet N or N+1. And all of that, but it's only like there's a huge amount of traffic going to it for 30 minutes, right? And so there needs to be a lot more miners and a lot more, like, let's say there were like 32 active UIDs on that network before that huge burst of traffic came, right? Being able to like move over really quickly and capture that burst of traffic for your like mining is because I think what's going to happen is the network is, in terms of like active miners per subnet, it's going to become a lot more sparse. So instead of there being a ton of density right now on a single subnet where every single UID is running like, 32 A100, 80 gigabytes or I think what we're going to see is a lot more speculation and preemptiveness of the miners switching between the UID or the subnets so that they can capture that value that's like going to that subnet.
I'm coining the word now, dynamic adaptive weights.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. I think that like Bittensor is about to go through almost like a MEV kind of boom, if that makes sense.
That's good. It's really interesting to hear someone thinking about it in a different. Has always been for me one of the things I feel that our current state is not one that's going to continue. Obviously, we're in the main channel, so we'll keep it abstract. And it's really interesting to hear that someone else also thinks that fundamental changes in the economics of the way the network works are on the horizon. So it's very interesting to hear.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
And something I think some people might have misheard is you said 1 million users and not 1 million UIDs, Caro, I believe, by the end of the year.
Yeah, 1 million users by the end of the year, not 1 million UIDs. That's correct. 1 million, but I do think that Yuma consensus, like the actual core technology of Bittensor, can scale to 1 million UIDs because of this like kind of very sparse, like it would just become very sparse and the meta would change very greatly. It would become very like the alpha that would be extracted by mining, like what makes a good miner is probably the one who can identify and switch the fastest between all the different subnets and serve, Yeah,
you might like identify, the main bottleneck is GPU power or something else, and then you notice like, this is the network that currently gives the most emission per GPU power, so you have like an automatic system for managing that between the subnetworks.
Right, precisely. Like that's what I think is going to happen. Obviously, I'm speculating there. We'll have to see how it turns out, but it's just like now that we have capacity, like I feel like Bittensor, a big bottleneck we had for a long time, and that we really worked on. That the foundation did a lot of really great work on, is increasing the capacity and the number of participants that can so that we can drive. If we had applications with across the subnets with 100 million users in total, we're going to need a lot more capacity in order to do that.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And I love the analogy you do compared to with the stock market, because in the stock market, anyone can participate, and like your reward is directly correlated with your performance, which Bittensor basically makes it possible to do for anything that can be measured through a consensus, basically, not just price prediction, but anything that can be measured in that way.
Right. And the with the new subnet update now, I mean, the sky's kind of the limit in terms of Bittensor's programmability. And there's like, you could make an EVM subnet, you could make like a bridge subnet, you could make all of these different things that is all protected by Yuma consensus and driven by Yuma consensus. So super exciting.
Yeah, wow. Like your subnet sounds super interesting. It also sounds very complex. The
reason why it's complex is because this subnet, in terms of its usability, everyone, I don't know if everyone's seen GPT's new feature with the visual understanding, but like, we not only will this subnet have visual understanding, but it'll have visual generation. Not only will it have video, like you could put a movie in and it could watch the movie and understand, tell you, like, write a summary of the plot, right? Like you could do that on this subnet. You could input an image, you could input a video, you could talk to it, you could record yourself and then input that into the model, and then the output could be text or whatever you said in the audio. And so this feature set is currently greater than what GPT-4 Vision is. And so Bittensor will be the only place where you could have access to this type of technology for the real price of what it can. Like, all of these AI companies are spending tens of millions of dollars Whereas I think Bittensor is able to provide the same thing for much cheaper. And so much cheaper than tens of millions of dollars. And so, I think fundamentally those other companies just can't compete with the protocol because of this. And so I think that this lends itself to being able to grow to lots of daily active users of Bittensor. More so, like if we got to like 1 million, 2 million daily active users of Bittensor, this would be greater than Ethereum. Like Bittensor would probably be the most used crypto protocol on the planet. Which I think that everyone sitting in this channel right now, like, how cool is that? I mean, it's amazing. I in my personal opinion. So this is a real potential coming soon to Bittensor. Like, I want to try to get this done by the end of the year. That's the goal, So I'm not mad. Maybe I am a little bit. I'm a mad scientist, up over here in the lab cooking up craziness.
But yeah, I think time will tell.
Yeah, well, I do think that GPT-5 is coming soon. I think it's right around, and I think that GPT-5 will have the same feature set that I have. I think they did it in the same way too. So we'll see. I'm one guy. There are hundreds of people.
Yeah, but
I think we'll win. I think we'll win.
Yeah, hopefully, like through the power of decentralization, you're one guy, but with the power of the protocol, you can get emission by validators that like understand and believe in your project from miners that are incentivized by those emissions. So it really evens the battlefield or playing field in a way. By anyone with a good enough idea can compete fairly with it, and like the best ideas and mechanisms should in the end win from that.
Yeah, the one of the really core principles of that Bittensor was like founded upon is that idea that all of this, all AI should not, the arbiters of AI should be the individuals, not these like very large, opaque, non-elected corporations. And so if you have a great idea and you can build like an excellent AI model and an excellent validation framework, you can put that on Bittensor and it will naturally grow. And so that's really, really cool and exciting. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. Yeah, Milo, come here. Yeah. And thank you. Sorry, guys. I'm at the office and I have my dog at the office with me, and someone just walked in and asked where Cigar Lounge was, and I'm not sure Cigar Lounge is. No, that's crazy.
Is your dog same as your profile picture?
Yep, that's Milo right there. My I love this dog. Yeah, I got her when I was in college, and I thought I was saving her life when I got her. I was in the mall and she was like in a puppy mill, and like I'm walking by and she's like in this like tiny cage sitting in her own filth. It was horrible. And I'm like, I'm getting you out of here. I looked at this dog and I'm getting you out of here. So I walked in, spent literally all the money I had in my bank account at the time on this dog because it was egregious. But I spent every dollar I had, and I get this dog and I take her home, and I thought I was saving this dog. So like I thought I'd done this great thing, and I think like looking back, this dog has been such a great friend to me, and has been there for me, loving me unconditionally since day one. I love this dog. I want to if you guys are wondering whether or not you should get a dog, I recommend.
Caro, there's something I read or I heard the other day, which is that dog will be your best friend for a period of time in your life, but you will be that dog's best friend for every single day of his life.
That is so sweet and true. Oh my gosh, that is so sweet. I love that. That is really great. Okay, can I steal that? Can I steal that and
Stay with
say
your
that?
dog every day, dog people. Don't leave them a day without you.
Yeah. And you know, we're starting this new company, and you know, we wanna do it, we wanna have the right structure, we want everything to be right, you know, set up so that, you know, we're really in a great position to grow Bittensor. And so, you know, I've personally never worked in an office before. You know, I entered the job market during the pandemic, and so I felt like getting an office would be, you know, because I would like to get more employees, and you know, really grow this into something that's you know, used by a lot of people, and is creating a lot of value in people's lives. And so you know, we got this office, and one of the conditions in the lease that I made sure is, you know, is that I could bring my dog every day. And so you know, nice little office mascot.
Yeah, we will. We're taking on Dogecoin as well, it seems. The ultimate vertical integration when it comes to crypto.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I don't know, there's a question here, but it seems like it goes a bit too close to price discussion, so we're gonna try to avoid that. But please, everyone that have more questions for Caro, post them now. Like I have one question for people who are interested in mining. Will they be able to only know one data type for your subnetwork? Like if there's someone who's used to text or image or video AI, is that enough for your network, or will it be like, oh, you have to understand this new type of models that uses all data types?
So the way that we do it is we use a bunch of models together. So it's like we glue together a diffusion model with a language model, with video scope, with, you know, music gen, with all of these different models, and we fuse them, and then we train it. Like we align it with the encoder, and so technically you could use any combination of models that you would want. You would just have to do the fusion process, which is, you know, there's like three or so. It's like a 3-step process basically, and it takes about, you know, for like a 7 billion, with a total parameter size of about 12 billion. It takes about 2 days to train on an 8x A100 pod, but obviously, I'm trying to make that, you know, drive that price down and drive the amount of GPUs down. There's great ways of doing it, like PEFT, and, you know, there definitely will be some fantastic docs on how to do this on the website. So
Yeah, because it seems like the way we got to be heading from looking at the past must be towards these like multimodal setups. Because first it was like, as I said, very specific models. They would only specialize as one thing, and then you got like ChatGPT that was good at all text tasks basically in multiple languages, and like just very generally capable. And like, yeah, it seems like a natural step then to integrate that with image and video, because like this is maybe off topic, but if I got to choose between all of my senses, I think sight is the most valuable for me. So it makes a lot of sense to have vision for AIs as well as text.
and with that sort of, you know, you can like continually add different types of models together using this fusion process. Like you just have to retrain the model. Like that's the only. But the great part is that like you can take all of these pre-trained models anyways. And so it lends itself to like, it's not going to be too difficult, I think. If you know how to fine tune a language model, it'll be kind of the same process as training, as fusing these models together.
Awesome. Is there anything we as a community can do for you at this stage?
I think y'all have been, fantastic, right? I mean, y'all are doing everything great right now. Obviously, like reach out to me if you have any more questions or concerns or anything like that. I'm really excited to be building this technology on Bittensor, and I really appreciate everyone hanging out here today and listening to me talk about Subnet 4.
Awesome. And I see chat is filled with dog memes and comments, so that's lovely to hear, lovely to see as well.
Yeah, the dogs are great. We love dogs.
So chat, if you have more questions, do type. And Karo, do you have something more you would like to add right now, or should we look forward to the Medium articles and other announcements from you?
Yeah. So over the next 2 weeks, we're going to be releasing some different videos and like really high quality production videos. And I don't know if anyone remembers the live streams, but now that we have like a really concrete place where like we can do a really good stream setup, and it's not at my house and like all this different. So we're going to be doing a series of we're going to be creating a lot of content here in the next 2 weeks that if you see it on Twitter, please retweet.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for. Oh wait, we have a question. I'm not sure if specifically for you, but it goes. One thing I'd love to understand more clearly is how the validation process will work for subnet that aren't specifically prompt output structured. For example, computer storage, etc.
Yeah, so Jake has actually released the code on GitHub for these templates. If you wanted to do like a storage subnet, I would probably reach out to him first about it, like just double check or have any questions. I'm going to his GitHub right now. I'm about to link him in here. But the validation processes are all very different, right? So I think for like storage, I'm going to link that one in here really quick. Yeah, he's already made two subnets in the last hour. So here we go. Here's the link. I'm pasting it in here. There you go. There's the link to the subnet. Now, I'm not actually sure exactly how the subnet works. So this is a prototype incentive mechanism for storage where miners serve their hard drive space onto the network and prove its existence to validators. Miners are rewarded proportionally to the amount of space they can prove to have and allow encrypted data to be stored there by validators. The amount of space available to each validator is proportional to the amount of stake they have on the network. That's that. That's very cool.
Yeah, and we will also add my 2 cents to that. In some cases, it might be enough to verify something 5% of the time to see if like a miner is legit or not. This doesn't seem to be the case with the storage subnet that they do this strategy. But what I guess you probably could do is that you send information that needs to be stored on the miners and 5% of that data the validator themselves stores, or 2% or something, and frequently checks, oh, has it stored this data correctly? And that way you can sort out which ones are actually saving all the data and which ones are not, assuming that the miners can't tell which 2% the validator is storing in order to check later.
Yeah, I think so. I'm reading the validator code right now, and I'm not exactly sure if it works like that though.
No, I don't think it does. I don't think it does at all. But that's something you could do for when you don't have, like, you could use it for compute as well, or like almost anything where it's enough that you check a few percent of the time. Like with compute, you send 100 calculations that needs to be done, and you check one of them or two of them to see that they were actually calculated.
Yeah, like some sort of statistically significant amount where you could be confident. Yeah. Or have some type of statistical confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of what is also happening on net one, because validator sends requests, but then in the future user requests will probably be 10 times higher and might not be scored, at least not all of the time.
Right.
So it's only like part of all requests to miners that will probably be scored. I guess that we will see about that, I suppose.
Yes, and I do think that like I think it would be really cool if you could somehow combine like usage with validation as well. Like that's what's really cool about subnets, is that you get to really define how your validation technique works. And there's an incentive for you as the subnet holder to have a good validation mechanism, or validators won't like validating there. And so in short, a large part of it is the game theory, engineering the game theory such that the incentives are beneficial to what the outcome you want.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna cover a few more topics, so I think we have to move on now.
Yeah, sorry I didn't mean to derail it or take it over. I appreciate you letting me speak.
Thank you so much for telling us about this subnet. I'm very happy that this was like the first place that people could hear about it. That's very exciting.
Yeah, it was very cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Caro. So next thing we're gonna cover is what is new for validators. So there was an announcement about this that you need to register on the root subnet, and it's first you need to opt in Bittensor, register on the root subnet work, and then you can set weights. But you also need to update the validator that you run on the on net 1 and net 11. Otherwise, you will fall out of the consensus. There's a new validator version as well. So if you're setting weights automatically, you need to upgrade the version to 2.0.0. Validating this form with a weight of 1.0. Great news. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, Eggenator. Oh yeah, you're to Teacher Tuesday. That's funny. Mog Machine also posted a video, right, Mog, about how validators can update to use the new.
Yeah, I did do a walkthrough of doing it on RunPod, where I tried to cover most of the options. I did do it before the Revolution branch was pushed to master, so now it's all for master. Yeah, if anyone has any issues, they can always DM me. I mean, I think all of the validators are pretty much up to date. I'll have to check the the weights, but it seems like everyone is now up to date.
Awesome. Yeah, for miners, last time I checked, there were a lot of miners with very low incentive. I'm not sure if that's still the case, because miners also need to update update how they receive requests.
But there's also some very high incentive. There's there's people with 174, 172. There's some very high. If you look on the distribution of subnets one, let me post this in the chat. You'll like this one.
Yeah, I think it's simply because there are a lot of miners that are not working at all.
And there's no, I believe registration is still off, which is why there's no keys and immunity. Which is precisely why the foundation, myself and other validators did not want to give full emissions to subnet 1 at this stage and hold some back in recycle. It's almost not fair if some people can't register and haven't had a chance to update. So it just means that not all of the spoils are going to those that manage to still be on there.
Yeah, I think in some sense, okay, I might be a little bit biased. It makes some sense that to reward those that did stay on the network, but the ones that are on the network, they already get very high incentive. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense what you're saying.
They're being rewarded though, because there's a normal top incentive is somewhere around 125, and now getting 174. If you look at that chart I've linked to in the link there, you'll see there are about 180 keys which are not doing anything, stuck down there at the very, very bottom with less than 0.000006. And so, yeah.
We have a question. Do we know which one is subnet 3? So subnet 3 is the old subnet 3. The next word prediction subnet that existed before subnet 1. It is not active. It will not be used. It will eventually get replaced with another subnet with a new owner.
To clarify that, the way that it works is that once all the subnet slots are full, all 12 of them, the subnet with the least the least emissions, and then I'm going to guess what the least amount of miners, essentially probably the least amount of activity will be the first one to be booted off. I haven't checked the subnet 3 stats because we don't actually record them anymore. I thought no one talked about subnet 3, but I imagine 3 would get kicked off before 11, as it is very much inactive.
Yeah. So for the people that are wondering how to update for mining using the new version, you need to install this.
The only way to do it was to go outside.
You can install it like that. And then I have an example if you're using the endpoint miner, what it can look like to have a custom miner. And there's also examples, of course, in the text prompting branch. There's one example using OpenAI and one using Vicuna. So yeah, there you have some updated example on how to mine. And of course, you can regarding that.
We're very complementary, you and I. And the guy that mines and the guy that validates.
Yeah, you do so much though. Like I'm really astounded yesterday that you had it's like you and the foundation are like the core infrastructure of like the Bittensor community. I would dare say.
Well, as I thanked in the general Discord, there were some people that I pushed to their limit last week, yeah, I'm very grateful. I've got a very strong team behind me, so thanks, team.
Yeah. Go teamwork. So now please write your questions in the chat. I have one announcement that next week I will be actually announcing a new subnetwork together with a team. It will be called NicheNet and will be for specialized models, but that's all I will say for now. But yeah, next Tuesday I will tell all about that new subnet. It's it's mostly done. We're still doing testing and hope to get it done in like 1 or 2 weeks to actually register it to like in a way that it would actually be working. Yeah.
I think that's going to be the challenge, isn't it? The first subnet that is not only registered but ready for validators to deploy. I know Creative will be hot on your heels with the image subnet, which of course he's been testing for a while, but he's not on the call tonight, is he? So I'll see if we can find out some more information about that for the week after.
Yeah. I'm not trying to be necessarily first one in. I think the earlier are also the more problems you kind of have to solve. So I'm fine with some people going.
It's better to be not the first to fuck up, basically.
Yeah. Although first, the earlier you are, the more attention you get. So I guess that's a benefit. And by the way, NicheNet, it will be primarily for text data creation. So we'll be creating text data sets. But yeah, next week you will hear all about it. Comments from Aginator? Nice net, NicheNet. Lemao, at this rate, a lot of tau will be locked up. Yeah, that's true. So many people wanting their own subnets. Like the more subnets we have, the more tau is locked up. So everyone everyone listening, if you also reg your own subnet, it will be great for APY. Awesome. Is there anything you'd like to add, Mog, or anyone in chat that has any final question?
No, for me, I'm very interested to see how the communication of subnets goes between validators, community, and how those economics work. It was interesting to hear Caro's views on being very dynamic and adaptive with your stake, with your weights, and it will be about sort of moving to capture the most value. I'm very interested. Obviously, I've been speaking to some subnet creators, but I wouldn't say any are campaigning for validators at the moment. And yeah, I think there's going to be a very interesting economic pull and push, supply and demand. And yeah, very interested to see how that one pans out.
Here's a wild idea. Do you think we should, like once a month or something like that, have validator special at Teacher Tensor, where we basically focus on going through what the validators need to know about each network? So the different subnets can kind of like pitch to the validators what they are doing and why they should get the validator submission and such.
Well, I think there's a couple of different sides to that. Obviously, the validators will pitch as to why, the validators, subnet owners will pitch as to why you should validate on their subnet and what their subnet is doing. But then it becomes I'm not saying private decision, but not the decision of the subnet owner, but the decision, individual decisions of the validator owners as to whether they believe a subnet is actually offering value. So I'm going to give you an example here. What Caro's just come to us with is incredibly interesting, but I'm not going to lie, a great proportion of us on this call don't fully understand everything that he wants to do and the deeper value. We do understand that there's something big going on here. Yet at the same time, if you look at something like the image subnet, it's a much simpler subnet version. but we understand that that could, for instance, open Bittensor to the AI artist market, which would bring in a huge amount of attention and numbers into the network without doing anything overly complex. It's not reinventing the wheel or doing something new. So we'll have to make these decisions between what's more important, bringing in these new numbers of users and eyes on the network, or supporting what is a deeper, more complex technical and groundbreaking endeavor. So it's going to be interesting choices.
Yeah. Very interesting market dynamics playing out. Thanks, guys. Ignatius says, gotta let it all sink in. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you. Jay says, monthly newsletter about pros and cons of subnets. Yeah, that could be interesting. Like, because I think with the more subnets there are, the more complex for validators to actually understand what's going on. And I can see two possibilities here. Either validators will only focus on one niche, like, oh, I will only look at like these three subnetworks and distribute my stake on these three, or there has to be a simple way to overview all the subnetworks to see what actually seems to be good.
Yep. Jay, I think we need a centralized, trusted source of publishing journalistic style information with information and perspective on subnets, the economies, what they do, and the value they bring to the ecosystem. Hey, someone better do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much. And yeah, we'll see each other next Tuesday. Have a great evening, everyone.
Have a good evening, everyone. I am now going to bed before midnight. I'm very proud of myself.
Good for you. It's pre-midnight here as well. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Vasil. Thanks, Agnator. Thanks, Bard.